All right, all right, all right. What is up, Undroppables Nation? Here again today with another Best Ball Mania draft, another Best Ball stream, and today is a very, very special episode. Today we have another guest, and that guest is Alex Caruso. So, Alex, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the folks at home?
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Josh, I so much appreciate you having me on today. It is Best Ball Mania season, which is like the best season of the whole year. So I'm excited to talk some best ball. I'm excited to draft a team together. We were talking before the show. That's been a dream of mine since I was a little kid to be able to do a best ball draft with you. So my dreams are coming true today. Hopefully the Undroppables and all the fans out there will enjoy it. But I'm excited to get into this.
All right, all right. Well, I guess let's not waste any time. Let's just hop straight into a draft room.
Let's do it.
So let me go ahead and share the screen, as always. Oh, we have our first engagement. Help'em says, "Yo, what's up, Help'em?"
Good.
Steven says, "What's up, bros?"
Okay.
It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day today. It's a beautiful day to try to win $3 million, isn't it? Isn't it, Alex?
That is definitely always the rule. Can you imagine? Like the dreams come true. We win $3 million together. That would be quite the accomplishment.
That'd be insane. That's kind of the beautiful thing about like these best ball streams is like you never really know. Like what? Oh, it's June, so like 6-7 months from now, we might be sweating this team out in week 17. So that's the hope. That's the hope.
It's kind of like speed dating in a way, where we're going through different teams every day. We're going on different dates, and we're just trying to find the one every so often. But in this scenario, I guess we just don't find out for a lot more months.
For a long time, yeah. Have to wait a little bit.
Exactly.
But okay, Alex, I'm curious, when you're going into your draft rooms, do you have any strategy that you're trying to follow? Any specific things that are kind of top of mind for you before the draft even starts?
Yeah, I think for me, it is almost always when it comes to drafts like this for $3 million, like go big or go home. Maybe that's not the correct strategy, and I should be playing more to place in every tournament. But for me, I'm playing to win. So for me, my strategy almost always is just play for week 17. So trying to find game stacks or team stacks and find a way to make the money when it counts. So, I mean, similar to Pat Corain last year, just finding ways to win when it counts the most. I'm not worried about the regular season as much. It is just whatever it is going to take to win, I'm trying to do.
Okay. I was actually discussing this with Chalk earlier today, because Pat Corain he took down the 2 million last year. He was the Best Ball Mania 3 winner. Big congratulations to Pat. But what happens if the Bills-Bengals game doesn't get canceled? Does Pat still win?
Probably not.
So I think it's a little bit like it's a conversation, and it's something that I've been meaning to analyze for a little bit. Is like what would have happened if the Bills-Bengals game played out? Because I bet a lot of teams that were in Week 17 had a lot of those Bills and Bengals players, since those dudes are like just fantasy stars. Like maybe some teams had Jamar Chase, maybe some teams had Josh Allen. Some big point totals could have happened in Week 17 that never really got to see the light of day.
I think we forget about that so often. I mean, I do. I mean, even this, like, you forget that it happened. Like, like everyone was there. A lot of people were watching the game because it was fantasy football championship day and all the chaos that happened. But it's interesting to see that, like, what the roster construction would have been of, like, if that game got out and Pat didn't win, like, what team finished at the top? Because it's not like there was only one or two teams behind him. There was a lot of different teams that could have on top depending on how that game played.
Exactly. So, like, I know a lot of what's been driven this offseason in terms of, like, best ball analysis has been, okay, like, Pat Corain's team was completely Week 17 game stacked. He had a lot – like, his roster was essentially just, like, Austin Eckler and then 3 game stacks. And a lot of people are trying to replicate now that exact strategy. So, like, I've noticed in, like, all of my best ball lobbies, like, everybody's just going for the game stacks. And I think that's largely because Pat Corain won with all of those game stacks. But, like, if that Bills-Bengals game plays out and some team with, like, an unstacked Jamar ends up taking the $2 million down, then does all of the analysis in best ball completely change because of that? Like, I don't know. Is it more of like a results-oriented sort of thinking, but it's just something that I've been thinking about and something that I've been meaning to analyze. So maybe that's something that I'll have to do. But
No, I feel the same way. I mean, I probably have to do the same thing because even for myself, like I'm not someone that plays in like I don't like max out any of my entries into a lot of the tournaments. So someone that's probably more closer to a casual best ball player than a professional best ball player. I think that for me, I'd be looking at like what won last year. So you're right that if someone else had won and they had an unstacked Jamar, maybe I'm looking this year for an unstacked Jamar or something like that, where the strategy completely changes. And next year, like whoever wins the tournament, if it's not the week 17 trio stack, then maybe like, we're going to be going for something else, whether it's 0 RB or 0 wide receiver or whatever ends up happening this year is going to be really interesting to see.
Okay. Well, looks like we are in the 108 spot. I'm really interested to see who falls to us at this point. Is there any particular players that you try to target in this first round?
The first round's tough for me because I think for me, like that, like I'm just trying to get someone that can finish first at their position, which is everybody in the first round. So just trying to find the safe guys. I mean, I think the only guys that I just haven't been taking much of at all are like Cooper Kupp and AJ Brown. But pretty much anyone else, I'd probably be pretty good with in this round. I don't hate Cooper Kupp. I just don't like of the first 12 picks. I think I like him the least, and he has the most red flags.
Really, I'm curious. What are your red flags with Cooper Kupp?
Well, I think just like the production profile in terms of like he's a 30-year-old wide receiver that's not like 30-year-old wide receivers historically have a bigger drop off. Beyond that, he's not like an elite athlete. Like he's not like a Stephon Diggs or a Justin Jefferson, like hyper athlete. And then we also have Matthew Stafford and the neck issues that he had last year, and he almost retired from that. Right. So those are three big things that when you look in round one, I just feel like there's a lot of other guys with less questions.
Okay. I love to hear the other side of the coin. Cooper Kupp is actually one of my players that I do like this season, just because before he went down last year, he was wide receiver 1. Like it was unreal what he was able to accomplish, just because like they didn't add any additional targets in that offense. Okay, looks like we're on the clock. You thinking what I'm thinking?
I'm totally thinking what you're thinking. I hope.
Stephon Diggs?
It has to be Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, it has to be Stephon Diggs. I don't think there was really any other option here. Like we need to get our top wide receiver in the first round, just because like I like the value of the running backs that are there in rounds 2 and 3. And I just love that Buffalo Bills offense. Like expect Josh Allen to be amazing again. Stephon Diggs is going to be amazing again. So
I think they're slightly discounted right now just because I think so many people forget that like Josh Allen like played through an injury that most quarterbacks should not have played through. So I think that even people are like acting like Stephon Diggs is going to fall off, but in reality, like Stephon Diggs was Stephon Diggs. He just had a QB that was playing through like a really bad elbow injury.
Yeah, I think that's something that kind of gets not talked about at all. I think it was like Josh Allen had this major injury that he played through, and his production suffered because of it. And same thing with Justin Herbert. Like Herbert played through like broken ribs and like had torn rib cartilage the entire season. Basically, I think it happened like week 1, week 2. So I think it's incredible that Justin Herbert's like he's at this massive discount. Josh Allen is like QB3 right now. So I like those guys at cost right now.
Especially because, I mean, Josh Allen was going to be like the first QB since Steve Young to repeat as the QB1 for 3 consecutive seasons. Like he had a shot to do that. I mean, like literally the QB1 in 2020 and 2021. And I thought he had a good chance in 2022 until that injury happened.
I think so too. And he still finishes what, QB2?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But that just speaks to what he's. But I'm curious to see how much, like, if his rushing touchdowns go down at all this year with them adding bruising backs like a Damian Harris and Latavius Murray. Like they didn't have that style of running back. Like Devin Singletary and James Cook were not those guys. What do you want to do here?
This is a tough spot. This is all like I've been shifting back and forth of going running back or receiver here. I'm open to hear what you want to do.
I really like Chris Olave here, but I'd also be okay going with like a Barkley or Chubb. It's kind of where you're feeling. But
let's go ahead and get Chris Olave, just because I think Chris Olave is just such an elite receiver. Yep. And I think after Olave, it kind of falls into like those wide receiver 2 sort of guys, like a Devontae Smith, T. Higgins, even Jalen Waddle is a guy that I do really, really like this offseason. But I think Chris Olave was like the last of like those elite ones that you can get.
Yeah. And there's a big tier gap after that where there's some running backs that might make it back to us that I think are like pretty strong values for where they're going right now.
I agree. And I like that. Sorry, go ahead.
Do you think that we can like jump into whatever you were going to say, but one of the other things I wanted to also talk about is like how much wide receiver ADPs are getting pushed up right now, and if there's a point for you where you're going to start shifting towards the other positions, because the wide receivers every week, it seems like in the ADP movement, are getting higher and higher.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. So because I know basically like everything that came out last season was okay. Zero RB was optimal. It was optimal to not draft your first running back until like the 8th round. And the guys that were available in the 8th round were like Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Ramondre Stevenson. Like those guys were all available for those zero running back teams. And I think the market has shifted, and I think rightly so. The market has shifted, so all of the receivers are getting pushed way up the board, and the running backs are falling down the board a little bit. But that begs like an interesting question, because like, how do we respond to the changing market? Do we continue to draft the wide receivers? Do we chase them up the board, or do we now shift our focus and look at some of the running backs that are falling down the board a little bit? So that's something that I've been thinking about a lot. I've seen a little bit of analysis come out around that, around like, okay, like there is this like value pocket in the 2-3 turn where you can look at some of these running backs, because some of the receivers in this range, like I like the running back outcomes better. Like, I mean, DK Metcalf going above Breece Hall. I know Breece Hall has the injury concerns, but Breece Hall is an elite running back. And I kind of expect his ADP to slowly rise throughout the offseason. What are your thoughts on like a DK Metcalf versus Breece Hall?
Yeah, I'm all in on Breece Hall this year. I mean, I think that like I love DK Metcalf. Like I don't mind where he's going at all, but I think that someone like Jackson Smith, and I'd rather just take Jackson Smith and Jigba or Tyler Lockett at price. Like that's the problem, is there's two wide receivers that are cheaper on their team that I think could actually end up posting similar value to DK Metcalf. So I'd rather take someone like Breece Hall all day in that range. I'm completely with you. I think Breece Hall is one of my favorite running backs to take this year. And I think that the second we get like video of him like taking contact come August in training camp, like he's going to fly up. But until like people get the confirmation bias via Twitter video, that's the only thing that's keeping him down right now. Yeah.
I think, like you said, people are just afraid of that ACL injury, just because we've seen what ACL injuries do to players in the past. Like we saw J.K. Dobbins. Oh, I wanted Ramondre to fall down.
I wanted him too. That's
exactly that would have been a nice game stack with Stephon Diggs too.
Yeah, I like a lot of people here. I don't like Travis Etienne or Deebo Samuel. Those are, I don't know how you feel about those guys, but as long as it's not Deebo, I can live.
I'm not hugely in on them. This is a tough spot. Anyone that just pops out to you immediately? We got 5 seconds.
I mean, should we go Mark Andrews here and get the tight end sorted out, or is that
Mark Andrews? Yeah, I think like we know like the tight ends have been kind of pushed down the board a little bit this year. And Mark Andrews goes like 24 picks after Travis Kelce is the tight end too. And one thing which I do really like about Mark Andrews this year is Todd Monken just joined the Baltimore Ravens offense, and he's historically always had very potent, high passing volume offenses. And if Mark Andrews remains that number one target for Lamar Jackson, I'm really interested to see what he can do in Baltimore this year. What are your thoughts on Mark Andrews?
Yeah, it's one of those things where I go both ways, where like if it was still Greg Roman, I would not be going anywhere near Mark Andrews. But like at the same time with Mark Andrews now, like yes, Todd Monken is there, but there's also the like, okay, now they have Zay Flowers. What are we going to see from Odell Beckham? Will they sign DeAndre Hopkins? Like I think there's like his target share is going to be a little bit lower, but their pass volume is going to be higher. So I think in net, like I think he's fine where he's going right now. One of the things that I'm excited to kind of explore, we're about to go, but I have a thread that I'm writing right now about how offensive coordinators are going to affect each offense this year that I'm going to put out, and like where people can take advantage of that. Let's make our pick first.
I like Jahmyr Gibbs here.
I also like Jahmyr Gibbs here. Gibbs or Najee here, I'm great with.
Let's go ahead and take Jahmyr. I think so. One thing, hold on. You can finish up your point on your thread. Go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just simply that like I'm going through the offensive coordinator changes this year and where people can take advantage for better and for worse in terms of like what these offensive coordinators historically bring to the table and how people can use that in fantasy drafts. For someone like Todd Monken, like where can people take advantage of some of the ADPs or things like that?
Yeah, exactly. Especially because like I don't know people realize the impact that a guy like Todd Monken is going to have on this Baltimore Ravens offense, because like the entire offensive philosophy is going to change massively. Just because like Greg Roman in the past has been just like run, just run the ball until the wheels fall off the running backs. But Todd Monken has a very, very different offensive philosophy where he likes to air the ball out. So I'm a big fan of that sort of move for the Baltimore Ravens offense. And especially like if you look at Kellen Moore, he had a huge just like philosophical difference with Mike McCarthy. So that's why Kellen Moore ended up leaving the Dallas Cowboys this offseason. I do think Dallas as a whole, their offense might take a little bit of a step back. They might switch from their pass-happy offense to a more run-heavy offense. So they are kind of the converse to the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm super excited for the Chargers offense because Kellen Moore is going there this offseason. But quick point I want to make on Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs got taken 12th overall, and he falls to the 4th round. That does not make a lot of sense to me. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I have a really tough time with Gibbs, honestly. Like I'm completely with you on one side of it, but I've also been like seeing the other side of the coin where people have been putting out different threads and articles on like historical running backs in terms of like their weight. And I know that's like a weight thing is a tough thing because I think Jahmyr Gibbs absolutely is the outlier in terms of like production profile, the team that he's going to be on. But how do we play that versus like the history of running backs at his weight, like doing really well in fantasy football, like per season? But I think that like right now, I don't mind where he's going, but I don't know how much higher I'd take him because of those like weight concerns that people have been pushing on Twitter.
So I hear that argument, and I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to play like your typical NFL running back.
Yeah.
Just because he was the leading receiver for Bama this last season, which is crazy.
Like it's not Georgia Tech. Like he was the leading receiver for Bama.
Yes.
Like, that's the crazy part.
Like, I don't know. It makes me think like, do they just deploy? Okay. It looks like we're on the clock. Anyone pop out to you?
The couple guys I like here, I like JSN. I think that he's a great pick here. I also don't mind Justin Herbert. I don't know what your philosophy is on QBs, but with Kellen Moore and that offense, I'm also like them.
Let's take JSN to get our third wide receiver.
I'm with that.
Then we'll see if Herbert falls back to us. If not, we could wait and get like okay, Herbert goes. Get like a Geno Smith. I think Geno Smith goes a little bit too late.
You. Oh my goodness. Yes, I loved I have a podcast planned for later today and for late round targets, and Geno Smith is like number 1 for me for quarterbacks.
Yeah, like hold on, let me pull up my model for you real quick. And so basically what I was able to do was this is just a projection for how here, let me sort it by model, right? So this 0 column is all of the projections in half PPR for like their output. And Geno Smith is right here at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's QB7. The model predicts Geno Smith to finish as QB7 this year, and he gets drafted like all the way down at. All right, we're about to be on the clock, but he's really late. Let's take our pick, and then we'll go.
Who pops out to you here?
I like Deontay Johnson.
I love Deontay Johnson. 5th in targets over the last 2 seasons, 10 plus, 11 of his last 17 games last year. I don't know about like how much I believe like the Kenny Pickett hype of like he was like the best quarterback in the NFL over the last like 5 weeks.
That's what they're saying?
No. I'm exaggerating, but people keep talking about this like legendary 5-game stretch he had last year where he was like a completely different QB.
I will say like he does have that dog in him. Like he's able to like those game-winning drives are pretty impressive as a rookie. Like he's clutch when he needs to be. I do think that maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just the philosophy of Mike Tomlin and who's their offensive coordinator?
Matt Canada.
Matt Canada. Maybe they just like kind of held the reins in on Kenny Pickett a little bit just because he was a rookie, and like because it was a little bit weird. Like the first like 3 quarters, all they would do is run the ball, and then 4th quarter comes around, they would just kind of let him loose and just like let him throw the ball a ton. That was kind of a trend I noticed whenever I watched Steelers games. But Deontay Johnson out targeted George Pickens in like 14 out of the 17 games. And then Pickens has an ADP that's like right next to Deontay Johnson. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. And beyond that, just like how well they get open, like in terms of like reception perception. And like, I think Deontay is like a better receiver. He gets open more. And like he's commanded targets at a high level for a number of years. Like I know Pickens will take a step forward, but like he wasn't even close to like commanding as many targets as Deontay last year, like you said.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. I think people just like, I don't know what it is. People are just like pushing Deontay Johnson like way down the board. He goes as like wide receiver like 37. He finished as wide receiver 39 last year, scoring 0 touchdowns, and he was like historically he had the most targets in NFL history without scoring a touchdown.
Yeah.
He's due for touchdown regression. He's going to score touchdowns this year.
Can I take it one step further?
Yeah.
Did you know he had 40% of the Steelers' end zone targets?
He did?
40% and 44% when he was on the field. So he had almost half the targets in the end zone when he was on the field last year.
All right, we're on the clock. I'll react to that in a second. Anyone that you like here?
Oh, I really like. I don't know if we need a fourth receiver yet. I love Quentin Johnston.
I love Quentin Johnston too.
Okay, but if there's a running back you want to take instead at this point, I'm also okay with that.
Let's take Quentin Johnston because I think there's a huge tier fall off after him.
Agreed.
And then we'll go ahead and focus on the running back position for like our next like few picks. But I did not know Deontay Johnson had 40% of the end zone target, red zone target. That's
it was
crazy.
like 8, it was like there's only like 7 or 8 players higher than him in the NFL, and like no one was over 50%. So he was commanding the end zone targets percentage wise as much as any player in the NFL last year.
That's ridiculous, and he didn't score a single time.
0.
That's wild. That is wild to me. Well, hopefully Deontay can get in the end zone because I already have a lot of Deontay this season. I think he's way too cheap. So I love our wide receiver room already. Our wide receiver room is stacked.
Maybe I will need a little equity in the team because like me and you are gonna have to like be on a podcast tour at the end of this year for just the $3 million.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to reconvene for that. But we're about to be on the clock. This is kind of a gross range.
How do you feel about James Conner in this range?
I do. Out of everybody that's here, I like James Conner the best. So let's go ahead and hit the button on James Conner as our second running back. Somebody has to get the ball in Arizona.
Yeah.
And
there's no one there.
There's literally no one.
Did you know that over the last 2 years, in games without Kyler Murray, James Conner is the number 1 scoring running back on a per game basis in all of fantasy?
What's the sample size on that?
I don't know. I think it's like 8 games around 8
games?
I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
And
I did not.
He averages like 22.5 points per game, which would have been the running back 1 in both of the last 2 years.
Damn. All right. Give me James Conner. Let's go. I already have a little bit of James Conner just because like my main thought has been like somebody has to get the ball in that offense. Like D-Hop's gone. I like Hollywood as well, but they're going to run the ball. The quarterback is going to be who? Colt McCoy? Clayton Tune? I'm not sure exactly who the quarterback's going to be.
Yeah. So Kyler Murray's missed 9 games.
9 games.
Yeah.
And James Conner is the RB1 in those 9 games.
Yes.
That's absurd. All right. Screw it. Let's go. James Conner is our RB2. I like it.
James Conner is our RB1, not even Gibbs. No,
hey, Gibbs is basically a slot receiver, so
yeah, he's just wide receiver 5 for us, or wide receiver 3.
Hey, I love our rookie wide receivers, Gibbs included.
Completely.
But okay, we're about to be back on the clock.
This is a tough. This might be for me at least like the toughest spot of like where we go from here.
Yeah, this like 9th round is pretty gross. Maybe we could just like stack James Cook with Stephon Diggs. I mean, I don't love James Cook. I haven't been drafting much James Cook, but like maybe we get Damian Harris a little bit later on. I don't know. This is a tough spot to be in.
And do you think it's too early for like a quarterback?
I don't think it's too early for a quarterback. I just I'd rather wait on Geno Smith like next round, 105.2 or 115.2, 113.
Would it be too early? No, it's probably a little too early still to take Antonio Gibson. Yeah,
Hey,
it's
I my last stream, I reached on Gibson at like pick 97.
what pick are we gonna be when he comes up?
So, well, basically, I think our next two picks are Antonio Gibson and Geno Smith.
I agree.
Maybe we just take Geno just to lock it up.
Yeah.
Because I think Geno is a little bit more important for our team than Antonio Gibson. But then I think we'd be able to get Gibson at 113 because there's definitely a guy with like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett out here who might be looking at him. Let me just go check these teams real quick. Deep State Comics. Okay, we're on the clock. All right, screw it. You want Geno Smith?
Yep, I'm good with that. It's a $3 million decision we're making right here. So
this is a $3 million decision. But I actually expect Geno Smith's ADP to continue to rise throughout the offseason. I think people are sleeping on him. And hey, like I said, the model loves Geno Smith. Out of all the quarterbacks that are left, Geno Smith is far and away going to be the top quarterback, and we get to stack him with a wide receiver one, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
real quick, can I ask you, since you're a Geno Smith fan, because I've had this question a lot whenever I've tried to hype up Geno Smith on podcasts. Like, he didn't have like a great stretch to finish the season, similar to like the anti-Kenny Pickett, where like people were saying that like defenses figured him out. Like, what do you think about that? And do you think that just like having a Jackson Smith and Jigba quells all concerns?
I mean, it's a small sample. Like, it was 4 games that he didn't perform up to par. I'd have to go back and look at exactly who his opponents were. I'm not fully bought into the idea that defense was able to figure him out. I mean, we could say that about a lot of different things. I mean, I think like I thought he played pretty well in the playoff game against the number 1 defense in football in the San Francisco 49ers. Like, that game was competitive for a very long time. And I remember, who was it against? The Rams, where he threw 2 interceptions. Like, I think that maybe he just like struggled a little bit in that game. I really can't explain it. I haven't dove too deep into it, so I'm not going to speak off the cuff here. But I'm more so, the bet on Geno Smith is more so a bet on Pete Carroll, because I'm a big fan of Pete Carroll and like what he's been able to do with whatever team he's given. Like, people wrote off the Seahawks last season, and they didn't give him a chance. They thought, everyone said the Seahawks were going to be a terrible team, weren't going to make the playoffs, no shot to make the playoffs. They go ahead and surprise everybody. Let's go ahead and take Gibson here.
I love it.
Like, Pete Carroll is, whatever he's been able to work with, he puts out a playoff team. And then Russell Wilson leaves, goes to Denver, and he looks nothing like what he did in a Pete Carroll system. And then Geno Smith comes, and he breaks every single passing record that Russell Wilson had for the last 8 years. I think Geno Smith has the record for most passing yards in the season in Seattle, which is pretty crazy. People don't really talk about that at all.
That's interesting. Is there, off of that point, like, is there any other teams in the NFL in particular, like this year, that you think that either people are writing off too much or people are getting overhyped about in terms of like the coaching? Like someone like Pete Carroll, like, you're going to believe in their weapons because of what he's done year for year. Is there another coach or another team like that you're believing in this year? Like, what about the Bucks? Because like, didn't they get like the Seattle's QB coach Dave Canals? Is he from Seattle? Like something like that, where they could do like Seattle 2.0 or something, like, not actually, but in that crazy world where people are writing them off for that kind of coaching staff.
I've thought that maybe Tampa Bay is a potential candidate, just because of the weapons that they do have. Like, maybe they're able to elevate whoever the quarterback is, whether it's Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. I'm not going to say that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be able to do that, just because who's their head coach?
Todd Bowles.
It's Todd Bowles. Yeah, it's tough to say. I don't want to say that the Buccaneers are going to be able to do that, just because, like, I don't think Baker's capable of taking the Buccaneers to the playoffs. Maybe their offense is going to be better than people are expecting, but I don't think that they're going to be able to be a playoff contending team, just because I don't think they have the QB play to do it. I know Baker Mayfield was the 101 in the past, but like, wherever he's gone, he's struggled. And like Geno Smith sat behind Russell Wilson for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And just he was learning that system, humbling himself. And really, once it was his time, he took the opportunity and ran with it. I think it's a little bit of a different situation. People are trying to find that parallel. People are like, oh, it just happened with Seattle. Now who's the team that's going to be able to do it? I don't think it's that simple as like a one-to-one sort of replacement. And I think the Seattle Seahawks is a little bit of a special scenario just because they've been so great historically that the only offense that maybe I see to be able to make that jump where people are kind of sleeping on them is maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers, just because like they have that consistency built around them with Mike Tomlin. We're on the clock. Anyone you see real quick?
Someone just take Jet McKinnon. Yeah. I like. What position are you thinking here? Because like if it's wide receiver, I like Nico Collins in this range a lot. I also wouldn't mind a Kendre Miller if we're trying to take something that with like big upside.
I think let's take Kendre Miller because we need our fourth running back, and that pairs with Chris Olave pretty well. And then let's hope for Nico Collins to fall back to our second pick.
We literally just drafted Josh Jacobs 2.0 and Devontae Adams 2.0 this year with Derek Carr.
Tell me more about Kendre Miller.
Kendre Miller is someone that honestly I have not done my homework enough about, but there was something that I forget the name of him on Twitter today that I was just reading a thread on like the drop off of running backs historically, and when they drop off by a certain amount of points per game and a certain age, that they tend to not do really well. Like it's like it never ever happens unless they change teams. And Alvin Kamara was on the list of like 4 running backs last year that dropped off, which to me says it would be a prime like grab Kendre Miller, because I'm not a believer in Jamal Williams. I think last season was a total fluke. So if Alvin Kamara is suspended, and then you have someone like Jamal Williams that I don't think will be nearly as productive, like to me, that says that Kendre Miller could be like a huge, like, you know who he is for me? Chris Olave last year, where there's 2 guys in front of him that people are like overrating their abilities a little bit.
Okay. I can see it. I'll go ahead and get into my Kendre Miller thoughts in a second. Anyone you see here?
I will leave this one up to you. There's no one I feel super strongly about.
This is such a gross range. Any correlation? Not really. Let's just go ahead and take Rondale.
Yeah.
I don't love Rondale. It gives us a little correlation with James Conner, but like we said, the targets have to go somewhere. And I was a big fan of Rondale Moore when he was coming out of college. I know he's tiny, but like this dude can just ball. Like he's super athletic. And I think he was a little bit misused by Cliff Kingsbury. Like Cliff Kingsbury knew he was talented, knew he was athletic. So like, let's get the ball in his hands. But he had like a -1 yard ADOT. Like that's not going to be successful for fantasy football. So I'm hoping that who's their head coach now? Is it Jonathan Gannon?
Yep.
Let's hope that he's able to figure out how to utilize Rondale Moore in a little bit of a more fantasy friendly sort of role. What are your thoughts on Rondale?
My thoughts of Rondale? I mean, he commanded targets at a really high level last year when he was on the field. Like he like his fantasy finishes, like in the games that he fully played, and his targets in the games that he fully played were actually pretty nice. And the games with Kyler Murray, but that's when you get into like, okay, you have a 5-game sample size with Kyler Murray and those things. But in terms of like the talent, the production profile, the change in coaching, I think are all things that I like as signs to point at this point in the draft for Rondale Moore. But can we go back to Kendre Miller real quick?
Yeah.
I think that you probably know more about him than I would and have a better take on him. I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So kind of my thoughts on Kendre Miller have been, I'm over at the Unending Rebuild. My podcast co-host, Jared Perlman, he loves Kendre Miller. He's been touting Kendre Miller as his RB3 from all the way back in like January. And Kendre Miller was extremely productive at TCU, beat out Zach Evans for the starting job when everyone thought Zach Evans was going to be the guy for TCU. He was really, really good in the game against who they play in the college football playoff semis. Against Michigan, I think. And he hurt his ankle in the championship game where like he wasn't really able to shine. I think he had like 9 carries for 60 yards before he hurt his ankle. But he only had a 5% target share when he was at TCU. And we kind of wrote that off as like, okay, TCU didn't really utilize their running backs in the pass game, because in the few clips I was able to find where Kendre Miller was targeted, he has great hands. Like there's a few clips where like the ball is like basically hitting the ground like at his feet, and he's able to scoop it up off the turf, like not letting it hit the ground. He's able to get it, turn and run. So I'm a big fan of Kendrick Miller. He has that prototypical bell cow running back size that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And they drafted him in the 3rd round. Who was the last running back that the Saints drafted in the 3rd round?
I think Alvin Kamara, isn't it?
It was Alvin Kamara. Exactly. So signs kind of point to Miller being kind of the replacement for Kamara. There's a lot of talk about Kamara potentially getting suspended with the video coming out. All right, looks like we're on the clock. Derek Carr got taken. That sucks.
No, that would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Who do you like here? Or is there a position that you think you're feeling the most? I would have said Derek Carr, but
I would have said Derek Carr too. Not really.
Is there another quarterback that we can take outside like that at this point?
Not really.
Yeah, Kyler Murray doesn't really help us.
All right, I'm just gonna take Alec Pierce just because it doesn't hurt to get more wide receivers, and he's fallen a little bit. My model likes Alec Pierce. I don't have any affinities for Alec Pierce. I mean, I think he's fine. But any thoughts on Alec Pierce?
I'm not an Alec Pierce guy personally, and not even because of Alec Pierce the talent. I like Alec Pierce the talent, but more just the situation. Like I just posted a thread today on like how to find top 24 wide receivers, and like it does not favor teams like the Colts that are probably not going to score as many points and are not going to throw the ball a ton. Like historically, like running wide receivers from those teams don't really produce, especially when you have a Michael Pittman in front of him already.
Yeah.
I think that this year he's a little bit screwed just by like having Anthony Richardson. I love Anthony Richardson like as a fantasy quarterback, but real life as a rookie, I don't think it helps Alec Pierce a ton.
Okay. I mean, I agree. So maybe that was a little bit of a mess up, but that's okay.
That's okay. I didn't have any better pick than you did. So
let's turn it around.
Who do you like here between someone like either like a Jaden Reed, Rashid Shaheed, or Wan'Dale Robinson? Like, do you like any of those guys, or is there a quarterback? Like, do we go for the Kenny Pickett, Deontay Johnson stack and hope that they're like that Seahawks 2.0?
Let's do it. I think getting Kenny Pickett here makes a lot of sense. I think we definitely need a QB2. And I think taking Kenny Pickett a little bit before ADP is okay because we need our QB2. You go with it?
I'm great with that.
Okay. I do like Wan'Dale Robinson. I like Jaden Reed a lot as well. I think getting our second quarterback might have been a little bit more important than getting our 8th wide receiver. So let's hope that one of these guys fall back to us. I do like Wan'Dale a lot. I think Wan'Dale is a great receiver, and when he was healthy, he was earning a ton of targets with Daniel Jones, and I think that he's going to get the first shot at basically being that top target earner in the Giants offense outside of Darren Waller. What are your thoughts on Darren Waller?
He is one of those like Christian Watson type players for me this year where like it really just depends what side of the pillow I sleep on. Where there's some days where I'm like, oh yeah, like I want some Darren Waller, but there's other days that are like, why should I still be believing in Darren Waller? But I don't think his price is really bad. I'm more curious to get your thoughts because like I go back and forth every day. He's one of the players I have the hardest time with.
Yeah. I think I'm exactly in the same realm as you. Like I flip-flopped so much on Darren Waller. Like early in the offseason, I was like, oh yeah, Darren Waller, he's basically the wide receiver one in this offense. He's going to get the top target earner treatment from Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones loves to throw it underneath. Darren Waller loves to play underneath. But he does have that injury history. I think the Giants traded like a decent amount of draft capital for him. So I think they traded, a 3rd rounder for him. So like it's not something to just blink at, but it's tough. He goes in like the 7th round. Let's see where he went in this draft. He went in the 8th round in this draft. I don't hate that because he does have the potential to be like a top 3 tight end in this season. My model doesn't love Darren Waller just because of like the injury history that he's had. So I've kind of leaned a little bit more towards how my model feels about him in terms of like me avoiding him a little bit at cost.
I love that. Is there any other players that like I'm not 100% sure, but like who are the guys, like even the guys that have already been way past drafted, like are there any other players that your model really loves that you've gone really warm on, like a Geno Smith? Like who is that for you at the running back, wide receiver, tight end position that your model really loves that you've grown accustomed to?
Running back has been Antonio Gibson. I've been touting it all offseason. I love Antonio Gibson. Let's go ahead and take our pick. Oops. Sorry, I live right next to a fire truck. Wan'Dale?
Yeah, Wan'Dale for sure.
Okay, sweet. That can close out our wide receiver room. The model likes Wandale. So at the wide receiver position, it's the number one value by far is Brandon Ayuk.
Oh,
Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk. I love Brandon Ayuk, and the fact that Ayuk gets drafted Deontay Johnson's also a huge value, but like in terms of like the earlier picks, because Brandon Ayuk goes in the 6th round, the model likes Brandon Ayuk as like wide receiver. I want to say like 15, and he goes at like wide receiver 30. And last year he finished as around wide receiver 14, I think, and I think Brandon Ayuk just is going to continue to rise. Reception perception. Matt Harmon just dropped Brandon Ayuk's profile yesterday. Brandon Ayuk profiles very similarly to a lot of the elite guys in this league. He was a 1st-round drafted NFL wide receiver. He's in this San Francisco offense that projects to be one of the top offenses this year. People are taking Deebo Samuel like 3 rounds ahead of him, and I think that their ADP should be a lot closer together because Deebo Samuel concerns me a little bit in terms of his splits with CMC on the field. And Brandon Ayuk, even when CMC's on the field, he's a high target earner, sharing the field with CMC, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle. So I like Brandon Ayuk a lot.
Completely. Is this the tight end round for us? We still have to get one more at least.
I think, we should definitely get one more.
Who do you like in these type of ranges for the tight end position?
I like Trey McBride.
Okay.
I like Noah Fant.
Yep, I like Noah Fant. Noah Fant could work pretty well with like the JSN and Geno Smith.
Yeah, I think we can get Noah Fant next round though.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Screw it. Let's just take Noah Fant here, just because let's just lock him up. Get our second tight end. I was gonna say let's pivot and try to grab one of these running backs in this range because I think we should grab one more running back to fill out a 5 running back room. But I guess we can do that at our next pick. Is there any particular running backs that you see here that you like?
I'm looking right now. Not completely. Like I wouldn't mind. Oh, Tajay Spears just went. He would have been like one of the people I saw just because of the potential opportunity.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't see anyone like right here that I'm like in love with. I don't know about you. Like, are you like a Zach Evans guy? Like, I know he's been getting a little bit of hype for Gus Edwards.
Sorry, there's a fire truck going by. I'm on mute.
Okay. Yeah. So is there like beyond that, like, I don't know like where like for the Giants right now, like where like is their backup running backs going? Is there a guy that we could get there? Like, or is there someone that we just like take a shot on, like a Leonard Fournette that's gonna like sign midway to a season and be productive? So I think that like I have a tough time no matter where I'm going at running back here. So it is a really ugly spot, but I'm curious to see someone that you really favor at this point.
So I bounced back and forth. I already have Leonard Fournette. I have 36% Leonard Fournette just because I think when he gets signed, he's going up like 5 rounds in ADP.
Yep.
Like he's going to go from the 17th to like the 12th. So like last offseason, my Leonard Fournette, it didn't work out in terms of actual fantasy production, but I was saying like in late May, early June, like draft Julio Jones. Draft Julio Jones. He's a free agent. He's going to sign somewhere.
Yeah. And
he was going and like I was able to get a bunch of Julio Jones in the 16th, 17th round. Julio Jones signs with the Buccaneers and he went up to the 10th round in ADP. That's 6 rounds of value right there. Obviously, he didn't put up like any usable fantasy weeks, so it didn't work from that perspective. But I thought the process like made sense. Like if you want just like ADP value, like you're gonna get a 16th round Julio Jones when other people are drafting a 10th round Julio Jones, and maybe he's able to have some spike weeks here or there tied to Tom Brady. Obviously, that didn't work last season, but I thought the process was right, so I'm trying it again this offseason with Leonard Fournette. I think wherever he signs, he's gonna get used. He's gonna get volume, and to be able to get him all the way back here in the 17th round feels pretty solid to me.
Yeah, because all it's going to take is one injury in the preseason games and then like next thing you know, he signs somewhere where he could see a lot of opportunity. Like what if Dalvin Cook doesn't get traded or signed? Like why wouldn't Miami like sign Leonard Fournette? Like it's the same. Yeah, like I just feel like it can't hurt them to have someone like him that's done it in the playoffs that fits exactly what they're trying to do and gives them like another really good veteran. That's probably their best pass catcher in that room. I don't know how much of a pass good of a pass catcher you think Devin Achane is, but like
he's all right.
Leonard Fournette could walk right in and be the pass catching running back in that room.
Yeah, Leonard Fournette last year had how many receptions did Leonard Fournette last year? It was some absurdly high that I was like, I did not know Leonard Fournette had that many receptions. Because like people forget Leonard Fournette was a wide receiver in high school. Last year he had 73 receptions.
Wow.
73 receptions off 83 targets. I know like it was like Tom Brady just dumping it off like a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But even when he was in Jacksonville, the season that he got cut, he had 100 targets for 76 receptions. So I like being able to get that. You want to grab Lenny here?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do it. Sweet. Leonard Fournette, pick 200.
One more pick left, I think we have? Or is that it?
One more pick left, yep.
What position are you feeling here the most?
I think we can kind of go however we're feeling because it wouldn't hurt to get a third quarterback. I'm not against that, especially since we did go a little bit late quarterback. Not opposed to getting a sixth running back. We probably have enough wide receivers. Could go a third tight end, but I don't think we need to with Mark Andrews.
Yeah, so running back, wide receiver. I don't know if there's a single running back that I think I'm in love with. I wouldn't mind going for like a QB, but I don't really even know. Like Mac Jones is not going to get the job done.
Jimmy Garoppolo's down here. That's interesting. It's pretty gross back here.
Could we? I don't know. Okay, if there's not a running back that you're in love with, this is more of just trying to be like a galaxy brain move. Like, do we go after like a Baker Mayfield and help he's Geno Smith 2.0? Or like I wouldn't hate that, but
I wouldn't hate that either.
Let's look at the running backs, and like we could use him as our backup option. But if there's a single running back that we are feeling excited about, like,
so the one guy who I think has potential is Eric Gray.
I love that.
Eric Gray is, I mean, like he's Saquon's backup. Saquon goes in the second round, so there's potential there. There's also like Malik Davis. If you think Malik Davis is going to be the RB2 there.
Yeah, he totally could be. I don't mind Eric Gray. Like, if you like Eric Gray's production profile, I'm totally good with going that. I'm not a big believer in Malik Davis.
Okay.
As much, I would rather go Eric Gray, but I'm good.
Let's go ahead and grab Eric Gray because Eric Gray is one of those guys that's barely drafted. So we're running it with Geno Smith and Kenny Pickett. Let's go. We're going with Geno Smith and then this year's Geno Smith.
Yeah. So next year when we're on we're on Good Morning America talking about our $3 million team, everyone next year is going to be looking at who's the next Geno Smith, who's the next Kenny Pickett. And Baker Mayfield is going to shoot up in ADP because of what we did on the stream.
People are going to be talking about Baker Mayfield as this is his year, like 3 years down the line. Yeah. That's always the talk with Baker Mayfield. It's tough with him, but okay, there's our squad. That
is a really good-looking squad. I don't know how you feel about it, but I think that there is some real potential on this squad.
I think there's a lot of potential here too. So our quarterbacks, for all the audio listeners, our quarterbacks are Geno Smith and Kenny Pickett. Our running backs are Jahmyr Gibbs, James Conner, Antonio Gibson, Kendre Miller, Leonard Fournette, Eric Gray. Our wide receivers are Stephon Diggs, Chris Olave, JSN, Deontay Johnson, Quentin Johnston, Rondale Moore, Alec Pierce, Wandale. And our tight ends are Mark Andrews and Noah Fant. That's a squad. That's a squad right there. Yeah, I'm liking it a lot. I think that they're like, especially with this running back room, like we took a decent amount of rookies, which I like. I think rookies can be very productive in their rookie seasons. And Kendre Miller has a lot of opportunity. Jahmyr Gibbs has a lot of opportunity. And Eric Gray, if Saquon were ever to go down, Eric Gray could become a bell cow in that offense because the Giants love to run the ball.
Completely. I don't think there's anyone else in that backfield that is going to remotely challenge him if he's productive.
Yeah, exactly. So sweet. I love it. That looks like that draft is just concluded. But there we go. Any closing thoughts, Alex?
Honestly, I just think that it is Antonio Gibbs' season at all times. Like I cannot get enough of him and Deontay Johnson and every.
Love that you're on the train.
So.
I absolutely love that you're on the Antonio Gibson train. Antonio Gibson is actually like my favorite player in the NFL. I have his jersey and everything because I'm a Commanders fan.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I'm a Commanders fan. But I've loved Antonio Gibson ever since he's come in the league. I've been drafting him every single year. Second round 2 years ago, fifth round last year, and this round I've been hammering him in the 10th round. I think I already have like 48% exposure to Antonio Gibson. So I'm gonna keep drafting him all off season long.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm with you. I hope I don't get burned by him again. I was not as in on him last year, but the year before I was all in on him, and it like sort of worked out. I mean, like, he finished like he was running back 12 or 13.
Yeah.
So right around where he was going in ADP. But
Yeah.
either way, I just don't. I think the people that think that he's going to get less this year than he did last year, finishing as a top 30 running back, is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm big fan of Antonio Gibson. I guess one thing which we didn't talk about during the draft was the introduction of Eric Bieniemy into that Washington offense. I think that can really transform the way that our offense has been run in years past. Like, we had Scott Turner for the last like 4 years, and he's been your very just like old school, just like pound the rock sort of guy. He kind of aligns with Ron Rivera's philosophy of just running the ball. But I'm hoping that Bieniemy is kind of going to open the offense up a little bit more, become a little bit more pass happy, and just get the ball to your best players. And I think Antonio Gibson's one of our most athletic, dynamic players on our team.
Could not agree more. Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right. Well, for all of you people on the stream, really appreciate you guys sticking with us. Alex, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. And it's been fun. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate you having me on. This is a blast.
Yep, of course. All right. Have a good one.